Well, as I mentioned earlier, the conference that we're having is put together by three departments: the history department, and social sciences, the communications department, and English and world languages. My question now is, how is it, do you think, that your studies, that you're reading of the novels that you're presenting, and the work that you're doing, how do you think it shares ideas? What is the intersection in between literature and those other areas of study, of history, uh, of social sciences, of anthropology? How can we awaken the interest in students that are doing something else, something that is not in literature, maybe? And more than that, they're not reading in Spanish. So how could we promote? What is it that you think could be shared? What interest could be shared with other individuals?
Number one, Rodrigo, when it comes to history, no doubt it is going to be like a second wave of colonization. And once again, we have Spain coming to America, changing things, not in a negative way. I'm not implying that anyway. But people from history are going to see how actually the beginning of the novel gives us a little bit of how when the Spaniards came to America, it wasn't only human beings. They also came literally with angels who were going to fight the local chamanes in order to eradicate any trace of local religion and impose Catholicism. Okay? And in the graphic novel I'm going to be talking about, it is going to happen again. However, this case, angels are cyborgs as well. So they are going to use technology in order to conquer for a second time uh, Latin America and also the States. Okay. When it comes to what is the second area, Rodrigo? I'm sorry.
Well, how would we promote an interest to those that are not in our area?
That was history, and the second one
Oh,
was
we're
Mhm.
communications, anthropology, and those
Okay,
other areas.
anthropology. That is a beautiful part because okay, not only we are going to see this clash between Mexican indigenous mythology and Spaniard Catholic mythology. In that case, okay, and once again, it is a new technological war. And when it comes to sociology and communications, in this case, we are going to see how they are using media, newspapers in this case, in order to promote all the different products they are producing when they are like slaughtering angels, which is the new business. I'm going to be talking about this tomorrow, and you are going to see something very interesting because the graphic novel is able to create this balance between all colonial Mexican architecture and neon lights, talking about, for example, Blade Runner or so. So yeah, those people from those three areas are going to find something they are going to be interested in, something they are going to connect to, because the novel is giving us a lot of information in many different levels, including those three. Mhm.
Very interesting. What would you say,
I
Gabriela?
would say for the two novels by Vasquez, if I were a historian, right,
Hmm.
studying Colombia in the 20th century, I think it is very appropriate to say that this particular text do demonstrate and represent these very complicated history that Colombia has had. Because we're talking about extensive periods of violence. Okay. And throughout the novel, although the author, it's not giving you this speech that's saying, "Oh, we poor Colombians," you can see in the representations that they have that individuals who have lived under these circumstances are dealing with a profound trauma, internal trauma. So if I were to say, okay, historians read this particular novel to learn about Colombia, that would be The Shape of the Ruins, because it talks about this one period in Colombian history where they had political paramilitaries, right? armies, all in tremendous fights for control. And then in the latter part, in the second novel, which is The Sound of Things Falling, then we have this other very complicated period, which is the 1950s towards the end of the century, where you had paramilitaries, you had guerrillas, you had the narcos, and you have the army. Okay, and it's extensive, the extensive violence in that environment throughout the country, not only in one region, causes the individual to react to those circumstances. So if I were to teach a history class, I will definitely pick up those books to represent that particular complicated period, right? In Latin American history, that is probably not very famous or very well known out there. So
Excellent. What would you say, Neftali?
Okay. I will try to give you a more traditional type of answer because when we look at the three departments that combine to bring us over and share this experience with you, um, each department is represented within any of these books of literature. Any reading that you do about literature places you at one instance in any particular area of study, communication, history, and so on. I usually take, during my semesters, I usually take a couple of classes to talk to my students that the humanities is the area of specialization that helps you train for the future because you are becoming better thinkers, because you are becoming in contact with knowledge itself. And when you realize that through history, through philosophy, through language, through anthropology, you gain all this knowledge that will create and it will determine the type of individual that you will become. The novel that I'm presenting can be studied from many different perspectives, from a political science point of view, from an anthropological point of view, from a mythological point of view, from just looking at the different mechanics employed by the writer to put together this magnificent work of fiction. So the fact that you are able to pull this apart and look into it and how this work of fiction functions gives you an edge because your cognition, your ability to discern is put to a test, and also to create your own criteria, your own thoughts, create your own perspectives and critical thinking.